Hello, I'm Shauna, and this is Jump In Precision. I thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about fathers, and the title of this video, I believe, is going to be The Now Father. And what I mean by that is, well, before I get started with that, um, I don't. For those of you who don't know, my ministry, Jump In Precision, is one of reconciliation. It's where we mend relationships, we mend father-son relationships, father-daughter relationship, husband and wives, whatever whatever variation fits your lifestyle. We often we will stumble in our lives. We will make major mistakes in our lives, but one of the main mistakes that the Lord wants to help all of us correct is that of our relationships. Sometimes we're angry, sometimes we're frustrated. We have different feelings toward different people in our lives for whatever reason. Maybe you've been betrayed or any of those things. Whatever, like I said, whatever circumstance fits you. And that's what this ministry is about. So, like I said earlier, today we're going to talk about fathers and being the now father. Um, let's start off with this. If you and there are you need to be a right now mother as well, or you can be a right now mother, but this video particularly is going to be geared toward the fathers. Fathers, first of all, I want to say to you that regardless of what you've experienced or what it may feel like at this moment, you are appreciated, you are loved, you are looked up to, you are an example, you are a representative of the Father in heaven, the Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we all, we need you. We need you in our lives. We need you for your wisdom. We need you for your strength. We need you for everything that God created a man to be. Sometimes we just don't know it. And sometimes you just don't know it. So when it comes to being the now father, or the reason that I'm titling it the now father, is because you cannot go back. You cannot reverse the clock. You cannot reverse actions that have been done. You cannot reverse words that have been said. But you can be all that you can be right now. And believe it or not, your son, your daughter, they need you. They need you to be able to come back in a place of humility, not weakness, humility. In a position to be apologetic, in a position to say, I'm sorry. And here's a tip, fathers, to reconcile your relationship, because you want to reconcile with your children just as much as they want to reconcile with you. It's just that sometimes we're at a standoff. And when you come to your child or whoever it is that you need to reconcile with, but right now we're talking about fathers. When you come to your child, be it a teenager, adult, young adult, whatever the case may be, the first thing that I recommend, and I took some notes here, is we already know we can't go back. We need forgiveness, and our children need forgiveness. We need forgiveness as meaning fathers. I'm not a father, but go with that. Fathers need forgiveness. Let's put it there. Fathers need forgiveness because you have grabbed them, you have beat them up, you have torn their clothes, you have humiliated them, you have bullied them, you have lied to them, you have not supported them emotionally, you have not supported them financially, whatever it is that you have done, or whatever it is that they have perceived you have done. Now, the thing about that is, this is tricky because some of those accusations or some of those flaws will be true. Some will not be true. But how they see it makes it realistic to them. How you see it makes it realistic to you. But the point is that you are the one that's coming back or coming to reconcile. So whoever comes to reconcile is the one who needs to take the high road and the humility road all at the same time. All at the same time. So when you apologize or when you on the reentry, your apology needs to look like specifics. I'm sorry that I never supported you emotionally or mentally. I'm sorry that I never came to your football games. I'm sorry that I didn't support you financially, that I neglected child support or whatever the case may be. It needs to be in detail. I'm sorry I took my pain out on you. I'm sorry I abandoned you. I'm sorry I abused you. I hit you, I choked you, I pushed you, I whatever. It needs to be specific. It cannot be, I'm sorry for all the times I hurt you. That won't work. That won't work. It needs to be specific because the pain is specific. So when you do so, be prepared to hear frustration, be prepared to hear anger. You might hear, okay, thank you for saying that. But believe me when I tell you, after you apologize, even in detail, actions speak louder than words. You'll be under the microscope. They'll want to see, are you going to try to bully me again? Are you going to try to blackmail me again? Are you going to try to abuse me or verbally or emotionally? If I need your support, will you be there? If I need you in a crisis, will you be there? Or what's the deal? So you have to just be the best now father that you can be. You can't go back and get what you didn't do. Besides the apology, everything is straightforward from here. Everything is straightforward from here. You cannot do anything else besides apologize in specifics. That's what's going to reach back and correct some things. But as far as everything else, it's full steam ahead. You need to have focus. You need to have tenacity that says, this is my son, daughter, what have you, and I've done wrong. Never mind that they've done wrong. Never mind that they've done wrong. Because we are, as parents, responsible for training them up in the way that they should go. We are responsible for setting the example. We are responsible for taking the first step, taking the initiative, so forth and so on. And because we dropped the ball in the past, we set a bad example. So when it comes time for reconciliation, you cannot come to the table with, I did some things and you did some things, so let's just call it even. That's not how that works. That is not how that works. And I don't want you to be fooled or misled into thinking that reconciliation will be easy and that there won't be some scars, there won't be some war wounds, because there will be. But you can be the best now father that you can be. And if you put prayer and dedication into the reconciliation, pardon me, it will work. It will work. You will be able to reconcile your relationship. You will be able to get along with your son or daughter. You will be able to patch things up. The next thing that I want to mention is the fantasy. Dads, you have to dismantle the fantasy. You say, what do you mean by fantasy? You have to dismantle who you thought your daughter would be, who you thought your son would be. You have to dismantle the you have to pardon me. You have to dismantle the expectations of, oh, I'm going to be able to teach him how to hunt. I'm going to be able to teach him how to play basketball. I'm going to be able to teach him how to, whatever. I'm going to be able to teach her certain things, or I'm going to, whatever, you know. Or maybe you have a daughter, and maybe you have all daughters, and you wanted a son. So you're disappointed that your children are daughters. And so there's some resentment there because of the fantasy that you had in your mind of having a son, or the fantasy that you had in your mind of how your daughter would be, was quickly snatched away by who they actually are. You have to put that on the altar and say, forgive me. Forgive me, Jeff, for the fantasy that I placed on you, for the neglect of who you really are, for not accepting you for who you are, and enjoying you as a human being for who you are. I'm sorry that I placed you in a category where you had to learn basketball when really you're an artist, or you had to be an artist when really you could care less about art. Sometimes a father's fantasy of what his sons will be, or sometimes the fantasy of what a parent thought their daughter would be, or whatever the case may be, whatever it is, can ruin the relationship. And sometimes you can't recover quick enough. Even if what they became or what they are is something that you don't like, you can still like them and not like their choices. Or you can still love them and not love what they love. You can still have a productive relationship if both people are willing. If both people are not willing, then of course there's nothing you can do about that. If they have a lifestyle that you don't agree with, say they want to join the military, and you're against weapons, or you're against whatever that is, you can still love them and still have a relationship with them and not share military stuff. You should be able to find something else that both of you like, that both of you agree on, that both of you enjoy. That doesn't make you have to say, well, if you don't come to the shooting range with me, then we don't have anything in common. Or whatever the case may be. Or if you join the military, then you're no longer my son, or you're no longer my daughter, or whatever the case may be. Let go of the fantasy of what you thought your relationship with your child would be. And it might require some conversation of apology to say, I always dreamed of it being this way, but because it's not that way, it really upset me, and I didn't realize that I was hurting you, that I was taking it out on you because you didn't fit the mold that I had set up before you were even born. So keep that in mind, and mold that over as far as you being a father to your children. Did I have an expectation of them that was unrealistic? Do I have an expectation of who I need them to be? And so if they don't want to be that, then we can't be in relationship? Because that's not the truth unless you keep it that way. That's not so unless both people operate in ego, both people operate in stubbornness, and unless you operate in my way or the highway. That's the only way you can't make the relationship work. The next thing that I want to talk about is self-hate. Dads, you have to look in the mirror and decide how you feel about yourself. How do you feel about yourself? Is there shame in your history? Is there shame in your heart? Maybe you didn't turn out to be the man you thought you would be. Maybe you didn't turn out to have the financial status you thought you would have at the age you would have it. Maybe you thought, maybe people told you were ugly growing up, or stupid growing up, or whatever the case may be. And you heard so many people say bad things about you or mistreat you, that you begin to accept it, and now that's the person that you are. And so now you do it without even thinking. You intimidate because you were intimidated. You talk bad to your children because you were talked bad to. You talk negatively to them. You have no positive love, affirmations, hugs, quality time to offer them. Nothing. You have nothing positive to offer them because nothing positive was offered to you. So that's where you have to look in the mirror and see if there's self-hatred, if there's low self-esteem, and you have to say to yourself, have I projected this onto my children? Now they're out there acting out, operating in disobedience, operating in vandalism, operating in self-hate, operating in violence, because I pushed them there. I made them feel less than. I made them feel like they had something to prove. I made them feel ugly. I made them feel like if they didn't have money, they're worth nothing. Because that's how I feel about myself. I feel like if I don't have a large bank account, then I'm really worth nothing in the world. And so now they're out there trying to earn a living any way they can and trying to acquire things that are of no value because you made them think that having money is everything, or prestige or a title means everything. And we project that self-hatred sometimes onto our children. And then the manifestation of that hate shows up in the courtroom, shows up in handcuffs, shows up in sexual promiscuity, shows up in poor money management. It shows up when they drive a Mercedes and they live in apartments. They drive a Mercedes and they live in the projects, or they drive they're spending money on expensive trips, but they get back in their light bill, their electricity is off. Priorities out of order. Because they're trying to accumulate the stuff that looks like success, even though they're impoverished on the inside, and they're impoverished in their bank account. And it's because of the fathers. The fathers are the head. The fathers are the leader. The father is the one that sets the highest example. You set the highest example, not only for your wife, but for your children. If you look in Scripture, the prodigal son, when he left his father's house, therefore leaving the Lord, is parallel in this example. He went to his father, not his mother, to get his inheritance, to get his worth. Give me, Father, the portion of the inheritance that is mine, so that I may go and live my life. And a lot of times, the only thing we pull out of that story is the father gave the youngest one his inheritance. He went out and lived a loose lifestyle. He ate with the pigs, blah, blah, blah. But nobody ever really stops to consider, what example did the father give the son? Did he lead him to believe that we just have all this wealth and we just work, 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 and there's never any time for play? There's never any time for leisure. There's never any time to do something for yourself. Just keep working and building up this inheritance that we never get to use. Which is why the other brother was so angry. I've been here by your side the whole time and you've never made a party for me. So is it possible that the father had wealth in the bank, so to speak, plenty of inheritance to leave his children, but a impoverished mentality? Is that possible? Is it possible that he was so afraid of poverty that he hoarded the money? And they could never do anything, really? They could never spend any of it leisurely? They could never do any extracurricular so-called activities because we don't want to go to poverty. We don't want to be poor. So I'd rather have it stacked up than be enjoying any of it. Mull that over. Is it possible? Because remember, the oldest son said, I've been here all this time and you've never made merry for me. You've never got out a calf for me. Why is that? Why would the other son feel like he's never gotten any rewards either? He's never got to spend any money either. See, when we examine a story, it's always more than one angle. There's always more to it in a relationship than what just meets the eye. Than what just meets the eye. It doesn't show that either son, it doesn't reveal to us that either son was misbehaving while they were home. That it doesn't show that either of them were wayward, disrespectful, or any of those things. Sometimes we can be so afraid of the self-hatred and the hatred that others have projected onto us. Maybe when you were growing up, people talked about things, talked about your hair, talked about your glasses, or whatever the case may be. And so now you're an adult, can't see past your arm, but you won't dare put on glasses because when you were a kid, people always made fun of you for wearing glasses. All of those self-hate things, all of those things that project low self-esteem, we project onto our children. Fathers project onto their children as well. So you have to look in the mirror, you have to examine yourself and say, where have I hurt my children as a reflection or as a, not a reflection, Lord, what's the word I'm looking for? As a result of other people hurting me. Maybe you bullied your children. And maybe you bully them because you don't feel worthy of love. You don't think that anybody will give you anything. You don't think that anybody will love you in spite of yourself. So you think, everything I get, I have to take. Everything I get, I have to manipulate. Everything that I want, I have to get it. I have to set it up to where they can't say no. Because I'm not worthy for anybody to do anything for me just because. And so you take it out on your kids and you make them earn things that you should be giving them. I've heard some people say, nobody ever gave me anything. I've heard some people say, It won't mean anything to you if you don't work for it. Those are not always that's not always the case. That's not always the case. Sometimes a person just needs love. They just need love. They need someone to say, you know what? I don't care what anybody else is saying about you. I don't care what anybody else is thinking about you. You're my son. And I love you. And I'm sorry that I have not shown you. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't support you. I'm sorry I neglected you. I'm sorry for this and this and this specific incident. I was wrong. And if you want to start building a new relationship, I would like to. We can't go back, but I would like to be a now father for you. If the person is 30, if the person is 20, if the person is 15, if the person is 8, you can be a now father. Let's see here. I think this is the last point. Anyway, think about the example that the Father has given us. Let me go back. When I talked about the prodigal son and you being the head and so forth and so on, when the son realized or came to himself, as the word says, and he came back to his biological father, which is an implication also of him coming back to the Lord, returning back to what he knows to be the right thing. Notice that he didn't return to his mother. He was sent away by his father. He was bid farewell, by his father, given the inheritance by his father. When he came back to apologize and humble himself to his father, not his mother. When Jacob went to steal the birthright, he went to his father. When Esau wanted to go and get his rightful birthright, he went to the father. He did not go to his mother. When reprimand, discipline, etc. happened, it was to the father. The father is a very significant role. If you mess it up, you have to fix it. If you fumble the ball, you have to pick it up. You are responsible, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you accept it or not. You are responsible. They're depending on you. They're depending on you. When Joseph had his dreams and the father knew that he was a special kind of child, the father was the one who would implement him reading scrolls, him studying, him doing whatever, him staying away from the other brothers, so to speak, not getting involved in the regular stuff of the day because he had specific chores, and then studying, then working on whatever it is that the Lord had for him. All of that was implemented by the father. All of that was implemented by the father, not the mother. And that's why we have so many wayward young men. It doesn't matter what race you are. There's so many wayward young men. Because the fathers are not in the position they're supposed to be in. They're not loving their sons, grabbing a hold of them, holding them tight, hugging them, telling them they are strong, they are smart, they are artistic, they are intelligent, they are witty. Whatever positive notes you need to give them, you can make it, you can do it. Whatever affirmations are necessary, they will return to God as they return to you. When you open up the door and let them realize that I have some place to come back to. When the prodigal son was eating with the pigs and nobody would help him and so forth and so on. When he returned home to his father, he's had some place to come back to. He has some place to come back to. And when he came back, he was shown that you can stand up again. You're not going to live in this humiliation for months and weeks and years. The son didn't come back with manipulation, though. He didn't come back with manipulation. He didn't come back with, let me see how to regroup so I can leave again. He actually learned a lesson. So I just want you to keep that in mind. If you're not the safe place for them to return, they're not going to return. And if they can't return, you make a hindrance for them to return to Christ. Now, on to that part that I was getting ready to say. Think about the way that the Father loves us or loves you. For God so loved the world, he gave. How can you give? Some people will give to a charity and won't give to their own son or daughter. Some people will go out and purchase shoes for a whole basketball team and make their son or daughter work for their basketball shoes or work for their new shoes. We have to ask the Father for balance. Lord, where do I give? Where do I make them work? Where do I make them earn it? And where do I just gift it? Everything the Father has given us, we didn't earn. He gifted it. He gifted it. So you have to think, if you've given money all the time, then maybe money's not the answer. Maybe it's quality time. Maybe you worked all the time and so you gave money, but you didn't give time. Or maybe your time was split. Your time was never about them. You took them places with you. You guys went places together, but it was always to the place where you wanted to go. It was never about them. So maybe you need to give quality time. Or maybe you need to give moral support, emotional support. Maybe all you ever told them or all you ever said was what's wrong with them. Not verbally saying what's wrong with you, but what I'm saying is if all you've ever done is critique. Think about what kind of father you are. You tell them to mow the lawn, they didn't mow it right. You tell them to wash the dishes, they didn't wash it right. You tell them to clean their room, they didn't clean it right. You almost did a good job. You almost did it right. Where are they supposed to get their self-worth? Where are they supposed to get their confidence that they can do a job right? If every word you say and everything that they've ever accomplished, it was almost good enough or not good enough at all. It comes from the self-hate inside of you. It comes from the neglect inside of you. It comes from the fact that you don't feel you've reached the bar. So maybe you need to start there. I'm sorry I made you feel worthless. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't accomplish anything. I'm sorry I didn't build you up. I didn't make you feel like you were strong. I'm sorry that whenever you tried to stand up and be strong, I beat you down because I couldn't stand the thought that you would rise higher than me, that you would dress better than me, that you would be successful at better more than me, that you would have a business and I didn't have a business, that you would have a dream and accomplish it and I didn't accomplish my dreams. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And we know this because in the state that I grew up in, there are countless male prisons. There's countless male prisons countrywide. But there aren't equal amount of women prisons. And when you look on the manifest or you look on the log, there's all races, all ages, men, men, from the juvenile system up to the adult prisons. So somewhere along the line, fathers have to pull it together. Fathers have to change the way that they're training up their children, have to change the way they're Scripture even says, fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath. Don't make them angry for no apparent reason. Don't make them angry for unnecessarily. That's what that means. Don't make them angry unnecessarily. You tear down more than what you think. Then they go out into the world and they take those frustrations out on their wife, their children, their job, their success, their health, whatever. Trying to prove everything that you tore out of them, everything that you ripped out of them. So there is something to be said for how you treat them, how you conduct yourself with them, and being the now father. Find out what they like. Find out what they do. And do it with them. It doesn't matter what it is. If they say they like to go fishing at the pond, go fishing with them. If they say they like to play video games, learn and play with them. If they say they like to write poetry, write some poetry with them. Whatever they like to do. Find something that you can do with them that they like to do. Let them sit in the driver's seat and show you their world. And then live in it. Live in their world with them. And you'll make a tremendous difference. The tables will turn. They might turn slowly, but they will turn. And the more they see the change in you, the more they see that you are sincere, the faster it will turn. But they need you to turn it. They need you to turn it. So consider what I've said. Consider whatever the Lord may be telling you as you watch this video. If you need to watch it again, I always recommend watching a video more than once. And the reason is because as humans, we hear what we want to hear first. Then we start to hear what was actually being said. Sometimes the first time we only hear our ego, or we hear offense, or we hear neglect, or we hear judgment. But if you hear it again, you'll hear, okay, I see what she said, or I see where I went wrong. Okay, well, maybe I do need to change this. Ooh, that hit me right where it hurt. That stepped on my toes, but it's the truth. That stepped on my toes, but it's the truth. So, like I said, consider it. Watch the video again. And do whatever you can. Do whatever you can to be the best now father that you can be, so that reconciliation can happen for you and anybody else that you want to reconcile with, but especially your children. You have a good night. Let's see. There's more I want to say, but it doesn't go along with this topic, and I don't want to taint what the Lord has said here. So I'll see you the next time I come on. Thank you for watching Jump in Precision. Think about your plan before you do it. Think about the things that you want to say, even if you have to write them down. Don't wing it. This is not the type of decision that you just show up and say, whatever. You jump in, but you jump in with precision. Okay? Bye-bye.